Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Two Tired Parents Podcast. I'm Miles Weber.
I'm Heather Weber.
As always, we are tired.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we just got back from vacation.
We did.
We have been, and in true parenting vacation style, we have been thrust immediately back into the exact same pace of lifestyle that we had.
It didn't slow down without us. So weird.
Nothing slowed
Nobody
down.
was here, just like, hey, let's slow it down for them when they get back.
It's almost as if it got faster, I think, is the hard part, right? It's like, oh, you were gone for 4 days and didn't do anything. Doesn't matter if it was over a weekend. Guess what you have to do? Get caught up on everything that you missed.
I mean, that's a lie. Our friend who house sat for us, she did have everything clean.
This
and
is true.
Stuff got done.
This
so I don't
is
want to
true.
say nothing.
Yes. There was a lot of things that we would have had to do that coming back now. It's nice that we don't have to. But now that we are back, we're in the garage podcasting, doing the thing. And I'm very excited about our guest today because I found myself scrolling through social media, as one does. I know. Am I saying that right? Social media?
I know we were off of it for 4 days.
Social media. I think it's social media. Social media's family reunion is what it is, I think. And that's what the kids are calling it. And I came upon our guest today. She is a licensed professional clinical counselor.
Boom.
LPCC.
Nailed
Did I get
it.
it right? That's right, right?
Yeah,
That's right.
nailed it.
Okay. I didn't ask how to pronounce her last name, so I've just been calling her Sandra. So please welcome to the podcast.
Try.
Sandra, everybody.
You're rude.
Don't try, you'll get it wrong. If you try to say my last name, you'll get it wrong. So
Is it Marer or how do you
Nope.
pronounce it? She's
It's
like,
Maurer.
not even that name. That's not even
no,
the right
that's
one.
not even me. Am I the right person? Am I supposed to be here? It's Maurer, but everyone gets it wrong because it has an R in there that shouldn't be there. It's rude, you know.
Is it more... nope. That's not right either. I was like, is it French, moyer? But that's not right.
Nope. It's just It's just difficult. It's just Maurer for some reason.
Okay, fair enough. Sandra M. We're
There you go.
That's what we do in the comedy world. If somebody's got a complicated, often Middle Eastern last name, they're just the letter. Let's just go with
Yep.
that.
Well, what about Katie K?
Yep.
Katie K's last name is impossible.
That's what I mean. So
Yeah.
she's not Middle Eastern. So.
She is not. No. Some type of German or something, I think. I'm probably messing that up.
There's a
too.
lot.
Did I mention where?
A lot of letters in German names too. That's true.
There's a lot of letters, weird dots in places too. That's another thing you got to look out for. So, but thank you so much for joining us.
Happy
How
to
you
be here.
doing today?
Happy to be here. Good. It's a little bit later for me, so
It is.
Six
You're over towards
my
the
time.
east, at least further east. Yeah, exactly. So I found you because you have been doing duets or stitches, whatever you want to call it, with some. I'm trying to be real particular about the words that I use to describe the people that she's been duetting with on social media because I don't want to ruffle any feathers. But for lack of a better term, you have been duetting with people who are fucking psychopaths. Just
great.
outright, wild people that I'm just like, oh my, this is strange, concerning, but also slightly familiar in certain ways.
I get a lot
I
of
think the
that,
biggest, yes, I think the biggest thing is it's parents whose grown kids have gone no contact with them, and they feel a certain type of way about it. And so that's how I found you, and it seems like that's a big thing, especially in the comments, that this is common because it's getting traction on social media. So that's how I found you. We will get more into that in a little bit, of course, but first and foremost, just about you as a person. How did you get into this line of work? As a kid, were you kind of like Lucy from Peanuts, just offering 5-cent advice at a stand instead of lemonade? How did this happen?
Sure. No, like all good therapists, I had a crazy family and I wanted to know exactly what kind of crazy we were. So I went to school to find out. And here I am. The specifically no contact stuff was kind of an accident. A friend of mine sent me a video, that like very first one. Um, and I was like, oh, this is just terrible. Um, so I have to say something about that. So I accidentally put myself in that space. But as a therapist, I became a therapist. I always knew I wanted to be a therapist, like since high school, and then I didn't do it for a long time. And then I was a birth doula, and then I was like, oh, I need to be a therapist for people doing this. So I went back to grad school finally and made that my specialty, women's health.
That's amazing. That's amazing. We had a doula with our second.
Yes.
And
Oh,
by far one of the best decisions we made
Easily.
was like the difference of having not having one with our first and having one with our second was like night and day. So
Yes, absolutely.
that's amazing.
100%.
big
And more
fan.
people aren't speaking up for women's health and specifically women's mental health. So you're doing the Lord's work.
Yeah, I like to think so.
You very much so are, 100%. And true social media fashion, like you described, it's just like a pure accident. Like, oh yeah, I think I'll just do this thing. And then that just becomes the thing. Everybody's like, talk more about this. This is wild.
Yeah.
So very, very interesting how it always works that way with social media. It's never the thing that you plan for. It's always the thing that is just like, oh yeah, I've got 5 minutes. Let's do this. And then you
Yep.
post it. And then the next day you're like, really? Internet?
Yeah.
Really?
Not the like carefully researched posts with my receipts, with all of my like evidence. Not that. It's the one where I was like, this is stupid. That was it. Done. 800,000 views. Right? You're like, oh, okay.
More of this.
Okay.
More
Yeah.
of this.
I can't tell you how many messages I get. Like, you see the comments, I get tons of DMs about these posts. Mostly people saying, like, paragraphs telling me their life story with their parents and saying, oh my God, this is so helpful. I needed some language for this. Thank you so much. This is so important to me. My mom sent me one of this person's videos and I sent yours back. My mom, like a lot of that. And I did not expect. I'm very surprised.
That was my next question is like how many people are using your DMs as a therapy session?
Yeah, I've gotten very good at saying, like, this sounds really hard. I hope you have really good support. If I can, I will help to connect you or try and find somebody that can support you. But I can't do it in an Instagram DM,
I
unfortunately.
mean, good for you for even going that far. So
Seriously, the fact that you were just like, that sounds hard, when you could just be like, Red, I've got other things to do. Especially because some of your videos, it looks like you're in between doing something else. Like you're like walking around the house. Like one point you're in like one room, another one you're outside, and I'm just like, she's doing
true.
errands right now, just playing
I-
therapist about this.
Yeah,
watering her houseplants.
I know, like parenting, throwing the dog like out the door. Yeah, it's I am doing that. I am doing that. That's how I like think too. And often I'm talking to my husband in between because he can hear what I'm saying and he's yelling stuff and I have to pause it till he stops yelling something so I can be like, shh, I'm on the video. I have to say the thing. You be quiet. There's a couple where you can hear him yelling in the background, where he just like yells over the video. It's funny.
I get that because we have the Marco Polo app with our friends,
Yeah.
and so it's
Oh,
like
sure, yeah.
texting but like FaceTime combined, so you can watch it at your leisure, respond at your leisure.
Yeah.
And I think pending our kids aren't around,
Yeah.
most of my longest rants are like on that walking around the house because I'm like, oh, and this and this and this and this and this. So yeah, we're like, anytime I try and sit and record something, I'm like, I have no idea what to say right now. I need to move
Yeah.
my body.
What does your
Yeah.
husband do for work?
He works in higher education. He was like a program coordinator for a university in Minnesota.
Oh, okay, right on. What was his thought process when this all started happening for you online and the videos that you get sent? Like, is he ever in the back just yelling like, that bitch is crazy? Like, I mean, like,
Yeah,
what
that
is his
is
thought
what
process?
he yells. Yeah. He's always like, "Who are these people?" And I'm like, "People are sending me these videos. Like, I have to respond now." Yep, he likes it. He's a big fan. I posted stuff for a long time about like women's health and culture and politics and kind of all this stuff. And the like ex-evangelical, like deconstructed evangelical Christian stuff, and the overlap of all that. So he has lots of thoughts about all of that. But I started doing more posts when, like a literary agent, when I pitched my book to them, they were like, "You need a bigger platform," and I was like, "I'll just say more shit on the internet. I can do that." So I started making more posts, and here we are.
Great. Great. Has your book come out now since all this?
It has not come out yet. Don't have a published date yet. Still working on that.
So stay tuned,
Process, turns
everybody.
out.
It's coming.
Stay tuned, though.
Yeah.
It's coming.
Seriously, it is coming.
Hopefully.
Now, you had mentioned earlier, and again, feel free to skip over like particulars or the question altogether at your own comfort level. Like you had mentioned, like you came from a wild family, and it was so wild that you were like, "What is happening? I need to study this. Like it's so insane." So, like, I mean, how wild are you able to give any context to that? And then from like your youth to now, where you stand today. What is the relationship like with your family? Has it changed at all in any way?
Oh God. That is a lot of big questions all at once. I will do my best to summarize in a way that makes sense. I grew up really conservative evangelical. My That's what my family was. My mother. And here's something interesting: is that my dad was a real estate developer, also a narcissist, just like Trump, and sort of in similar circles, doing business deals in similar circles in New Jersey. And he died eventually. I'm trying to make this so short. They split up. He died eventually. Somewhere along this process, I deconstructed, left that religious practice. So did my husband. And of course, like MAGA became a thing. And that strain on my family for the last like 10 years just, I think, broke it was the straw, right? There was just so much there that, you know, from childhood that hadn't really been addressed. And I see that a lot in these adults children that have gone no contact. Is almost never was it like last year something happened and they can't get over it. It was last year something happened and it was just piling on from decades that like wouldn't stop. And I couldn't take it anymore. And that was kind of similar. And so it's a complicated relationship with my mother and my sister. The family we're with right now have always been, it's very strange. We have my mom and her sister, polar opposites. My mom is like super conservative, Christian, Republican. And my aunt, her sister, is like atheist, super liberal, just opposite in all the ways you can think of. And we have spent every vacation together every year for my whole life until this stuff happened, right? Like this stuff just sort of split everything down the middle. So we the family that we're visiting now is the family that we are not in as complicated a relationship with. So it's hard with the moms, but we're trying to figure it out. And I think that pattern feels very similar to a lot of people in the comments and in the messages online.
Yeah, I'd say that there's some parts of our lives that rhyme for sure. Because I mean, I think grades 6 through 12, I was in Southern Baptist Christian school, a private school. Because I mean, granted, that was the thing with my parents. They wanted to keep me safe because I mean, I grew up in a hood little town where like all the like chosen junior highs and high school, it was just like, I mean, we could send you there, you'll get stabbed. We could send you there, you'll need brass knuckles. We could send you there, you're gonna need to learn some type of like physical trade. Or we could send you to like the tiny, tiny Southern Baptist Christian school and you'll probably be fine. And I was just like, yeah, I guess we could probably do that. But yeah, not without its own different type of like very indoctrined language and just the way they were going about things. I mean, it being Southern Baptist, it's a different flavor of Christianity for sure. But I think that's similar. And then my dad's got something. I mean, that's because I mean, I'm
Don't they all?
hesitant to. Yeah, we all do. I mean,
Yeah,
like that's I
100%.
joke about it in my act now. In my next special, I'm doing about having Tourette's, generalized anxiety disorder, ADHD, and OCD. And so it's just like, yeah, I've got a whole like slew of things, 100%. But I mean, like I've gone to therapy, and they're like, "This is what's going on." Whereas, like my dad's just like,
Hmm.
"Well, I'm not a pussy, so I'm not gonna go to therapy." So it's like, okay,
Yeah.
we'll just all try and get. So I'm really, it's hard because I think in my 20s I was like, it feels like narcissism, and then now as an adult I try really hard not to like diagnose anybody myself because I'm just like, who
Yeah.
am I?
It's
I'm a
hard.
comedian. Like, I mean, so I don't want to throw anything on anybody, but I'm like, something's going on there. There's a
Hmm.
thing happening there in one of or both of them. And so yeah, no, this seems like, and reading the comments, it almost seems like this is kind of like the way you make that cocktail of this type of situation. But that also brings me to my next question. Do you think this is like, given your studying of this type of scenario and you getting fed all the videos online, which it is hilarious to me, the thought of your videos being the clapback that we all use to send to the people on the other side of the family. It's
You know
like,
who's
well,
got something to say about that? Sandra. Send.
Sandra said
Yeah,
this.
right.
What you gonna do
Yeah.
now? So that's hilarious to me. But does this seem like a
Me too.
generational thing to you? Like it feels
Yeah.
like a lot of millennials that I've talked to, the millennials are tend seem to be leading the charge and like, no, we're just not doing this
Yeah.
anymore. Or is this something that's been around for a long time? We're just only finding out about it now because we're all interconnected with social media.
A little bit of both. So, first, it is really funny to me that people have told me they've used those videos because in therapy, I will jokingly say, like, you can blame me. Be like, my therapist said that I had to do this. But now people are actually doing that. Which is, yeah, it is really funny to me. I think it fits my personality being from New Jersey originally, right? That I'm okay with being the person that's going to talk back to the people saying some bullshit. I'm totally fine with that. That vibes. That is
Right.
not the rest of my colleagues in Minnesota so much, so that's fine. I will use that skill set. Uh, what was the question? Oh yeah, is it a trend? Everybody has this question, right? Like, is this new? Is it a trend? And are the therapists doing it? Um, and or are we just figuring it out? Like, or just seeing it more? It's more visible. Like with autism diagnosis, we just got better diagnostics, and now we just see it a lot more because
Hmm.
we have a lot more language for it, and a lot more people are getting assessed. I think it's a little bit of both. I think family estrangement has always existed. Historically, we would see a lot more of like parents cutting off children, right? I don't like your behavior. I'll cut you out of the will. You won't have access to like sustaining family wealth or whatever you need if your behavior isn't good. And so it was used as a weapon that way, and less common for the children to go no contact because you would need that for survival.
Hmm.
Um, so I think that I think this is the I'm trying not to go on a tangent, but I think it's there's why that's why we see an overlap with like the kind of content from these parents and the coaches. Most of the people I'm stitching now are like coaches for no contact parents, which we can talk about in a second what all that is about. But why I see an overlap between that and like manosphere content uh, is because they both have a similar kind of reaction. It's both of them feel like they're about this is how society was ordered and you're supposed to do these things and now you're not doing it anymore and I'm really pissed at you about that. Um
Hmm.
and you should stop doing that. Like you're being disobedient. Um
Hmm.
and I think that there's also this like you mentioned the like growing up Christian thing. There's also a generation mostly millennials like us that were raised with like James Dobson era parenting, which is very authoritarian and focused on obedience and breaking the will of children. Literally, where the idea of the strong-willed child came from is James Dobson, and that authoritarian style of parenting is creating childhood trauma. And so I think there's a whole generation that was really encouraged to do that kind of parenting, and then we grew up and we had kids, and we were like, "Oh, that was pretty fucked up. I don't want to do that." You know?
Hmm. Yeah. Well, and I feel like especially in the last 10 years, like what you were saying with like the Trump administration and everything, and just politics in general, it's showing people like not just how maybe their parents were behind closed doors about politics, but now like how their thoughts are affecting others because we can see it on social media more than just our immediate circle. And I feel like more millennials are just at the point of like, hey, no, you thinking about that, about those people, or like this person or whatever, like that's not okay. And I feel like this is the not the first, but more millennials are talking and standing up for each other, I feel like, than maybe before.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I agree with
Yeah.
that.
No, I agree.
I think people need a language for it too, right? I get a lot of that, right? Like,
Hmm.
I think there is like a permission structure that happens, and not in the sense that like, oh, I saw somebody else went no contact, I want to try that too. That seems fun. I think it's much more like, oh, I didn't even think that was a possibility. Oh my God, I
Hmm.
wonder if that would be helpful for me. Or I was already doing that. I just wasn't saying that out loud. I just was like
Hmm.
quiet quitting my family. I was just sort of like over here not doing that. I just didn't have a name for it. I
Hmm.
didn't have a way to process that. Um, so I do think that there is a lot more just conversation about it as well.
Yeah. Well, and I feel like we're talking about feelings more, and we're trying to get more in touch with like our nervous system and what that feels like and what triggers
Yeah.
what, not just like mentally, but physically. And so I think, yeah, when you do hear about people going no contact and you're like, well, let's see, if we remove this, how does my body react to it? Not even
Mm.
like my mind, but how
Hmm.
does my body react from this separation? And I think people are discovering that like, oh, this was causing a lot of drama, a lot of, or like anxiety, depression. And so now when I remove myself from it, okay, I can put my shoulders down a little bit more.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, I think
Hmm.
you also touched on it where, like, half jokingly, you're just like, "Oh, I'll go no contact with my parents. That sounds like fun," and because
Yeah.
I've heard you talk about it, like with people that you talk to who are clients, it's not fun. Like, I
No.
mean, it's beyond less than ideal for so many reasons. Like to a fundamental, like down to your core,
Mm-hmm.
we're all like biologically linked to our parents,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the person that we would want to go to
Mm-hmm.
if there's any hardship that's happening. I mean, we got two young kids right now that are both under 5. And so
Mm.
seeing like the bare necessities of like, I don't want to die, I don't know what's happening, like they go to you for that. And then as you get older, going for support in society is just like, hey, how do things work? And then when you have kids, like, I mean, hey, can we be a part of the village that helps raise these kids in the same way? So it's not fun. It's
Mm-mm.
not
No.
ideal. It's not like trendy or a thing that we're, doing and batting our eyes at and just like, I'm no it's not something to glorify, but
Mm-mm.
it just seems almost
No.
like a lot of the parents on the other side think that this is like something that we're all going and having celebratory avocado toast and lattes over to like talk to each other, just
I
like,
mean,
I
I
haven't
am.
talked to him for 7 years, I haven't talked to him for 10 years, like. So I mean, like,
No,
can you
yeah.
talk about a little bit more about just that side of it, of how like it isn't fun for people?
Mm-mm. No, it's a grieving process. You basically lose someone who's still alive. So and it's an ambiguous loss because they're still alive. Everybody in my office has gone through this, and even in my personal experience, it's a process of deconstruction, like leaving us any other kind of system, like you're leaving a family system that's dysfunctional. And anytime you leave a system that doesn't work, it comes in stages. There's moments of like, oh, this doesn't feel right. Like you said with your body, when you go, oh my God, actually, I know what it feels like to be regulated a lot more now. And now when I go back into that space, I feel dysregulated. I didn't know that I was always feeling that way before. And now I'm starting to understand that there's a different way to experience just being. Um, and so I think that it comes in these like waves. And so people will describe over and over and over again to me. This is so consistent. I tried to communicate a boundary. I tried to set a boundary. They didn't keep it. Or I set a boundary and they totally abandoned me. They said, oh, you're not talking to us anymore. I don't want to, because they just couldn't handle the conversation even. So either one or the other. And then they just grieve that loss for years and years and years. One of my clients talked about it. Like she said, I was walking towards that door for like 10 years. I just kept going a little bit closer and hoping that they would move in my direction and do something, anything. And I just kept taking one step out. And she said, I'm all the way out the door now. I just don't know if I should shut the door, but they haven't moved at all. Right. And like that,
Mhm.
she's very good with metaphor. I want her to write a book, but it is very good. That is a really, really common description of what this is like. And even in my comments, when people are describing like deeply abusive things, they will say, it took me years. It took me forever to decide that like this was the only way I could be stable and cope.
Mhm. Yeah. I mean, you have to be in tune with that. I do have a question because I feel like a
Mm.
few years ago, the most popular term with like mental health type things was gaslighting.
Yeah.
Now I feel like
Mm-hmm.
the word is boundary. I feel like
Mm-hmm.
every other person is talking about boundaries.
Oh yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm curious on your side of things, do you feel like this is another social media type thing where you're hearing more and more people like setting boundaries and people are like, that's a thing?
Yeah.
Show me how to set it up. I'll get the building blocks and
Yes.
everything and we'll
Yeah.
make some boundaries. So is it also
Yeah.
like a newer thing you're hearing more of?
Well, and she's going to give you the good answer, which is different from my joke answer in my act, which is a boundary is a spell that you and your therapist cast to keep your parents away from you. And
Yeah.
that is, in fact, like the
Totally.
joke answer. But, like,
That is the
what is
joke
it exactly
answer.
for the
The
people
real
listening?
answer, yeah, boundaries. People using boundaries on social media is generally my pet peeve because, like narcissists, it's often misused all the time.
Mm-hmm.
It's both. It's that, and people are going, "Oh, I didn't know I could do that." Like last Thanksgiving, two clients sent me Oprah's like podcast episode or whatever it was, where she did no contact parents, and she said in that show, she was like, "We didn't know we could do that. We just all suffered." Right? Like they're genuinely kind of pissed that it didn't occur to them, and so I think that like other people saying, "Oh, I just set a boundary with my mom that if she talks that way, we don't have conversations on the phone." And people are like, "Oh my God, I never even thought I could do that." Because that's just not it's not normalized. And my little soapbox is that people misuse boundary all the time. They use it to talk about a demand, they use it to talk about what other people are going to do, and boundaries are about what I'm going to do. So it's
Mm-hmm.
like, I'm going to only like I will only see my mom in neutral spaces, or I will you can we're going to come visit you if you can speak to the kids with respect or
Mm-hmm.
whatever, but it's about what we're going to do, and people are always using it online to say like what you like other people are going to do. I set a boundary that she can't do that. I'm like, I'm not a boundary, that's a demand. Makes me
Mm-hmm.
crazy, because then when people are trying to actually do that in a way that is to help set up better structures, like boundaries are there to make everybody feel a little bit safer, and when people are trying to do
Mm-hmm.
that for real, it just gets weaponized. That's my little
Well, I feel
soapbox
like
about
there's
the
a
boundary
difference
thing.
between like boundary, deal breaker, and spoiled. Like I
Mhm.
feel like those are three different things. And so yeah, I feel like they kind of blend together very quickly when they're used the wrong way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Um, do you see? I mean, you talked about weaponizing and that. Do you see like what role do grandchildren play in all of this? Because I feel like
Um,
that's another thing that comes up when, because I mean, that's where you're going to get a lot of the triggers from your childhood. If you know you've got your parents who did, I don't want to say like did a certain thing to you, but like created a certain type of environment for you when you were a kid, and then you have children, and then in the process of, you know, introducing them to grandbaby, the kids get to a certain age and you start seeing those similar patterns start to happen again. Like,
mhm.
I mean, what role do you think the grandkids play in it, or is that one of the primary catalysts for these boundaries to get set up? Is, well, now
That's
I
right.
have kids and I don't want that for my kids.
Yeah, I think that is how I backed into this space, right? Is that my specialty as a perinatal therapist and working with new parents and families? That's where it was coming up so much, was people saying, um, now I've got this 3-year-old, and all of a sudden my relationship with my mother, I'm watching it happen with my daughter, right? And oh my God, I see it totally differently. And you probably know that experience just generally when you become a parent, how you were parented just comes all back up, good, bad, ugly, all of the
Mm-hmm.
things, um, in ways that we thought maybe weren't like still present for us. They become present again.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it is a huge catalyst. I think that the conversation around it online from the no contact coaches for the parents is framed like people are weaponizing the grandchildren as a way to control the behavior of the grandparents, which just tells you everything you need to know about how they view the relationship, right? Because that's what they would do. It's a lot of projection, right? I would
Mm-hmm.
weaponize a relationship to control someone else in a relationship. And that touches back on the idea of like authoritarian parenting and like how they also support authoritarian governments, is because I'm supposed to be in charge. I talk a lot about like, I'm the authority here. And so
Mm-hmm.
I should get to say. And so the kids going no contact or taking the grandkids away is disobedient, essentially, is what they're saying. And they are
Mm-hmm.
upset that you're threatening the whole structure of the world in their eyes. But when parents talk about taking their kids or like having less contact with grandparents in my office, it's it's always about, well, two things it's about. Oh, I'm watching my mom repeat that pattern with my child, or my dad repeat that pattern with my child, and it's just not really a safe environment for them. Or, and the no contact coaches never talk about this, or the grandchild says, I don't want to go to grandma's anymore. Right. And like, I have a 12-year-old. She has a lot to say about what she does and does not do and who she sees and doesn't see. And we've had conversations about like the belief systems in different parts of the family and how does that make you feel? And I have clients who've gone no contact because their 13, 14-year-old queer kiddo was like, oh, I can't be
Mm-hmm.
with grandma. She thinks I'm going to hell. I don't want to go over there. And the parent was like, yeah, you don't have
Mm-hmm.
to do that.
Yeah.
So they never talk about that part. They never talk about the grandchildren having any autonomy because they don't think they should anyway, right? It's a authoritarian hierarchy.
Mm-hmm. That's so true.
Yeah.
So true. And I think yeah, choosing things wisely. I think it's
Yeah.
not talked about enough of like if your child, and this is anywhere, right? Not just like grandma or grandpa's, but like if your child says, "No, I don't want to go back to daycare. I don't want to go to
Hmm.
this or this person's house." We have to sit and listen why.
Yeah.
Like I know it's like the
Hmm.
norm, kids don't want to go to school. It's still worth
Yeah.
asking them why. Is
Yeah.
this just like I don't want to go to school because I just don't like it, or is something happening to the child while they're
Hmm.
there? And I'm so glad it seems to be more and more of a thing that parents are sitting down with their kids of any age
Yeah.
and just being like, okay, why? Tell me more. Like our son said before, I don't want to go to like dance class. Well, did something happen or are you just tired? Because
Yeah.
it's important to us to
Hmm.
understand like where it's coming from in that and just to make sure everything's okay and they're comfortable in that and feeling safe.
Yeah. Every kid's different too, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so what they need might be different than what you needed. Um, and it's all of it's very nuanced, right? Like a lot of times people go no contact for a period of time to say, like, I need a break to kind of get myself really stable. And then we can ease back into this in a way that feels a lot better for me. And I've seen that happen. Um, and with kiddos, right, like I think when you ask them those questions, the grandparents and that generation of parenting that see authoritarian parenting as the best way to parent, see that as you giving the kid too much power, right? Everything's in the relationship, or everything in relationships is viewed in terms of power instead of in terms of
Mm-hmm.
connection. And so if you're asking the grandkid and you're giving the grandkid permission not to go to grandma's house because they don't want to deal with that day, you are just like you are letting the kid decide everything and you're ruining the entire
Mm-hmm.
fabric of society, right?
Yeah.
Core.
That's true, but and I think it's so funny to me because when you do look at more the authoritarian type of way, we're very quick to be like, kid has no power, kid has no power, kid has no power. 18, get out,
Yeah.
figure it out.
Yep.
So if
Yep.
you're not like
Arbitrary number.
having right, if you're not having anything in between though, A, how are we expecting them to figure it out? If like they
Hmm.
haven't had any control over anything, and also B, like if they don't feel safe in the home to say when they're uncomfortable, they're not going to say it to a stranger on the street that makes them uncomfortable or a teacher, like whatever the situation is. So you have to like also just give them the confidence to be able to speak up for themselves.
Yep.
Hmm.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, nobody is. I think the biggest thing with the authoritarian type of parenting is that we really try to have a household where nobody is infallible, if that's the right word that I'm trying to think, where it's
Mm,
just like we just don't question the parent because of the title they have. They are a parent,
right.
therefore they are to be obeyed. Da, 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 da. And it's like, well, no, because I mean, like now we're just using a blanket statement for a title, and you should. There's not a single title I don't think on this planet where it's just you just don't question it. I mean, like that's like saying all cops are good or all cops are bad because because of the title they have. And it's like there's more nuance to
Yeah.
that. We need to take it case by case, but it's not just like,
Yeah.
you just don't get that right to be like, well, I'm the parent, so you have to listen to me. But I mean, adding that nuance I mean, especially with our kids, it allows us to open the conversation up more, to understand them more, and get to know who this person is. Because I also think that there's so much of the old school authoritarian type of parenting, which is you are expected to raise the child to be a certain way. And I think
Yeah.
us and other parents that are in our circle are really settling into the realization of like, oh, this is a new human who showed up that's kind of pre-downloaded with their personality. Like, it's
Yeah.
my job to get to know who this person is and how they are, who they are, and cultivate that and give it a safe space, like you said. It's just like, oh, because I said so, because I'm your parent. Well,
Yeah.
I don't want to lecture and I don't want to hear any lip because I'm your mom, I'm your dad, and this, that, and the other. It's like, well, no, what's going on? Like, what happened? Well, why do you feel that way? Let's talk more about
That's
that. Well, how does that make you
curiosity.
feel?
Yeah. Curiosity isn't present there. And that is because, and we're going to like stumble my other soapbox here, which is like how white supremacy and patriarchy and capitalism have set us up to be in the situation that we're in right now, because you don't. And in America, children are really viewed as property, not as entire people. And so if you're my child and you belong to me versus I'm given the responsibility of guiding this child, then I'm going to treat that whole relationship much differently, right? I use this as an example all the time, is that the United States is the only UN nation that hasn't, I always use the wrong term. Is it ratified? No, whatever. The Convention on the Human Rights of the Child. We're the only one who won't approve it. And that's because of parental rights. And what that really means is we own them, right? We should have a say. We get to decide exactly what they do and what they don't do. Um, and I think that millennial parents have deconstructed like American propaganda at the same time that we've deconstructed all the authoritarian parenting stuff and gone, oh, this is kind of an overlap. Like these are all the same structure and none of these are really helpful. And they're all exploitative. And maybe we don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Maybe people like children are whole people from the beginning. And maybe my job isn't to like control them until they're adults and then they owe me things, but maybe my job is to um, be responsible for caring for them and helping them like develop in a much more like collaborative healthy kind of way and then this is why I think we see such a reaction from these like no contact parents that feel the need to post online, right? Like that's also like a subset of the parents, is that it doesn't just feel like they're upset or sad that their kid is not talking to them. They feel like you've threatened the whole order of the world. And it's not the only way to function as a family, right? There's lots of other ways to parent, and this is a pretty uniquely like Western industrialized American version.
Do you think there's a lot of it that is because I see it is kind of similar with like religious beliefs and things like that. People
Yeah.
tie their identity to a belief system. And when you push on that, you're going to get this fight or flight response. Like, do you think
Mm-hmm.
that a lot of these parents who are making these videos online and things like that, who are on that side of it, do you think it is an identity issue to where it's just like they are mom, and if you strip that away from them, they don't know who they are as a person? Because we're always talking about the hats we wear in our life,
Right.
where it's just like, I'm Miles the dad, but I'm also Miles the husband, Miles the comedian, Miles the friend, but also I'm me as a person as well. And that needs to be honored in its own way. So if you take any of these things away from me, it shouldn't be like an absolute existential crisis. Or I can acknowledge that if something has, the pandemic happens, I'm not doing stand up anymore. I had to really come to terms with who am I as a person, because I had been the
Yeah.
funny haha for so long, and I now have to actually look within and be like, well, no, who's Miles as a human being, and get to know that and be comfortable with that and actually nourish that person that I am. Do you think it's an identity thing that these people are like, no, I'm mom and I'm dad, and if I'm not that, I am nothing?
I do. And I think that's a great overlap with, I mean, I think you see that in that Venn diagram overlap with really religious, especially conservative religious or like high demand religion families, because that structure and that role, in order to belong to the group, you have to um, sacrifice your other parts of yourself. Right. So, in order
Mm.
to be like the most Christian, they will say this in churches all over. Maybe you remember this kind of stuff. It's like you're a Christian first. No, your whole identity is in Christ. That language is about, right, sacrificing who you are to be in that group. And we've done this with motherhood, especially. And this is kind of a lot of what's in the book is that we've demanded that motherhood be your identity and that everything should be sacrificed to that. And we've done this thing now where we're like, well, you can have a little bit of self care, like that's fine. But as long as it just makes you a better mother, right? It can't just be because you want to or you need it, right? Yeah.
That.
So,
That.
yeah. So the cult of motherhood is real. And I think that like intensive parenting has done this. And I think some of these mothers were really like, a lot of them will talk about like we had kids, we didn't know we had an option not to have kids, right? Like you were supposed to just do that, and that was supposed to afford you a certain status in the group of like America and adults. And then when you go, oh, I
Mm-hmm.
don't want to talk to you anymore, it takes away their status. It threatens their sense of self. It does create identity crisis. And that overlaps with deconstruction Christianity or deconstructing MAGA or any of these things because you have to sacrifice yourself to belong. And so it becomes very, like, genuinely disorienting. And that's why they get that fight reaction for sure. They
Mm-hmm.
genuinely don't know what to do with it, don't have the distress tolerance skills.
What you said about the cult of motherhood, absolutely.
Facts,
And
facts.
that is the thing, right? Like, okay, you can go take this break, you can have this getaway, and especially if you have a partner in the mix, it's like you can have this, but you have to come back a better mom and a better lover. Ready, set, go. No
Yeah.
Yeah.
pressure,
Present,
and not
fully
just to be
present.
like, right. And it's just like, what
Mm-hmm.
about me? Like, what about what I want in this? And it's like, it's not like we're trying
Doesn't
to fill
matter.
up a cup anymore. We are trying to fill up a keg. Moms are trying to fill up a keg, and we're like barely getting a solo cup's worth in
And
there.
in that keg, there's a drunk asshole got that thing tapped on the side who just keeps sucking it out. So it's like you're just
Yeah,
trying to
totally.
fill up this. Yeah, you're trying to fill up a keg while this person's doing a stand on it. Like,
Right.
so
Yeah.
it's so hard.
But
That is very true. There's like, oh God, there's so much about that. I'll go on like five tangents. You were gonna say something else, Heather. Go ahead. Sorry.
well, I was also going to say, as far as like the identity thing, and I think what I've come to realize, like being a daughter and also being a mother, is you get to a point as a parent where you're like, okay, yeah, I'm the parent, I'm the mom, I'm the dad, whatever. And then eventually, slowly, that will turn into be going from parent to best friend or friend.
Mm.
And I think so many parents aren't comfortable with that switch, especially if like a partner comes in to be with their kid and now it's like, okay, well, now there's only room for me to best friend, and that's not what I wanted. I wanted to be mom or dad forever.
Mm.
And so I think that
Yeah.
does become the hard shift in not feeling needed
Mm.
anymore, because I think that's like also just a healthy relationship, is you don't want to be with somebody because you need them. It's because you want them, you want to be around them. And I think that's a hard line for parents to really like get over.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
I think that's because we structured it that way, right? Like, I don't think it
Mm-hmm.
has to be that way. I don't think that's like
Mm-mm.
innately part of family life and parenthood. I think that's because we have treated parenthood, especially in like late stage capitalism, as everything's a commodity, right? And so, like, the relationship with my kid is a commodity. But people will talk about it. I paid for college, I paid for your car. You owe me access to you. Like, it's a transaction. And so then I
Mm-hmm.
think that becomes really difficult in adulthood when they don't want to participate in that transaction anymore and they don't have another way to be in relationship with that
Mm-hmm.
kid who's now an adult. And
Yeah.
I think that it really, it's I lost my train of thought because perimenopause brain. What was I going to say? It's right there. I can like feel it behind my eyeballs. What was I going to say? Um, Oh yeah, the like what are our goals of parenting are essentially the are very different. So if my goal is
Mhm.
to like make sure this person stays alive and then they will take care of me when I'm old, you're going to parent very differently than if my goal is I'm going to have a relationship with this person for like their whole lives, my whole lives basically. The longest part of that relationship is going to be when they're an adult. Them being a child is like
Mhm.
the smallest part of that relationship. And so if I'm
Yeah.
thinking about this time as a way to help them have the skill set to be a functional adult, and I'm thinking about investing in this relationship for the rest of our lives, that whole approach is going to be really different. That's going to inform
Mhm.
how I'm showing up with my kids now and the decisions that I make. And it certainly makes room for repair, which is something I was going to say a minute ago. I think when you were saying something about it, Miles, that like you're going to say do what I say because I'm the authority. There's no room for repair there. And I think a lot of what these
Mhm.
adult children want is an opportunity for repair, is for that parent to say, "Ugh, I really fucked that up. No, I totally fucked that
Mhm.
up. I missed it. I didn't see you in that. Tell me more about that." Like that would go miles and miles and miles and miles of like not your name, but like actual physical, like as a metaphor. Like that would go so far in reconnecting,
Mhm.
but they won't do it because it feels like they're losing power. I throw a fit
Mhm.
online instead.
I was gonna say kilometers, 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 but
Kilometers,
it's
kilometers,
Yeah,
harder
kilometers.
kilometers,
to
Yeah,
get
kilometers.
around.
yeah,
Maybe I'll
exactly.
start saying
Inches,
that.
inches, inches, added up,
Kilometers,
all
kilometers. Yeah,
cumulative.
totally.
So
Yeah.
yeah, no, absolutely. It is an entire thing. But I mean, like, because we're always talking about repair. We
Mhm.
are always talking about like it's how you recover. That is everything, and being able to hold yourself accountable. Just like, man, I really messed that up. I'm sorry that that's what I did. This is what I'm gonna do to try and be better about navigating this in the future. I can't
Mhm.
say this will never happen again,
Mhm.
but I want to be more tactful. I want to be more thoughtful and intentional
Mhm.
about these types of things. So I think so much of not just parenting, but like having meaningful relationships that can become 3 and 4 dimensional
Mhm.
and stand the test of time is all about repair, being able to acknowledge when you stepped in it and then put those feet in front of the other to be able to move forward in a
Yeah.
positive way. Which I think brings me to my next part, which is like, since engaging with your contact, I am in the no contact corner of social media now because of the algorithms. And I have seen
Sure.
some parents who have had their adult children go no contact with them and they were able to repair that relationship. How often are you seeing that happen in cases where you've got a parent whose grown children went no contact and they're actually putting in the work and they genuinely
Yeah.
want to have that relationship be better with their kids?
Yeah. It happens. It definitely does. I think there's a little bit less of it on social media because it's probably not going to get pushed to the algorithm as much as the ones where they're like yelling at you. Um,
Mhm.
but I have seen it both on social media and in my practice. Um, my friend, she's got a much bigger following than me. Whitney Goodman, I think she's like an LMFT. She's got a big Instagram following. She wrote a book about this too, or that's coming out soon. She's seen it happen, and she talks a lot more about like how to have that repair. And I think that I think it does come down to like whether or not that parent has the ability to sit with and hold what their kid is giving them, to be able to say
Mhm.
like, okay, your reality is your reality, how you feel is how you feel, it's not a personal attack on me. I did do those things, or I didn't realize I did those things. If they have the capacity to sit with that in any kind of way, make any kind of effort towards change, then kids are adult children, right, are like more than willing to meet their parents there, right? But more often than not, unfortunately, at least right now, when I see parents or like adults ask for to go to therapy with that parent, or could we work on it this way, or I just let me set this one boundary and then we can maybe work on it. They just really, really, really struggle to know what to do with that, unfortunately.
Mhm.
And instead of saying, yep, I have some accountability here, they go, I'm sorry you feel that way. And won't go to therapy and blame the therapists for like somehow making them go no contact. Like my joke is that like I can't get people to do what we talked about from one session to the next. Like there's no way I could make them completely stop talking to their parents, even if I wanted to, which of course I don't. But nonetheless, that is the narrative out there.
Therapy homework can be a lot, and I feel like the biggest one would
Yeah.
be going no contact as a homework thing. Like that's just not
Can you
gonna
imagine?
happen.
No.
I got like a
No.
list of triggers to make over here that sounds way more inviting than that.
Right? Yeah, that's a big thing. I can't get like you've been super depressed. Did you take a shower every day like we talked about? No. Right? Like that's
Nope.
that's where we're at. We're not telling you to go no contact with your family.
Right. Right. Well, and what you guys were saying with repair and like just starting the conversation on it. Like, no adult child is like, I want you to promise me this is never going to happen again. We just want you to promise to try.
Yeah.
Just to
Yeah.
try.
Yeah.
Like, we don't need 100%. We're not looking for
No.
perfection out of this. Just an attempt. That's all.
Just try. Just try. I mean, like, none of us are perfect. We're going to mess up. We're going to
No.
falter, especially if you've been wired one way for so long. If you're in your 60s, 70s, older, and you've been doing this thing one way, it's not going to happen overnight that you're just going to
No.
flick a switch and then, okay, well, everything's fine now. It's like, no, I mean, that's not realistic. And it's shame on me or anybody else who has that expectation with somebody who's genuinely trying, but that's really what it ends up being, is just like genuinely, try, like put the effort in, put the energy into it, whatever that looks like at your own comfort level, and just communicate with that. I think is the biggest thing, as long as you could just continue to keep trying.
Well, and that's what you were saying about like you're not going to understand how beneficial that conversation can be. And I think this goes to both sides. Like talking to the adult kids that are going no contact, like ask for that conversation.
Yeah.
Like you're not going to understand, and I can only speak for myself, but like you're not going to understand how therapeutic and helpful that conversation is to start, and it's not going to be a one-off conversation.
Yeah.
But I think so many adult kids are afraid to have that conversation with their parents, and it can be so healing for both sides. And then as far as the parents go, like you're going to give your child so much peace just having that conversation and holding space for them, especially if that's not a thing that was the norm in your relationship and you actually sit and you listen to them. Like it's going to be so amazing for both sides for different reasons.
Because most of the time, that's all the adult child wants, is to have that conversation. Like you said, that conversation alone could be so healing, especially if you get it in your head for the longest time, for almost your whole life, like, this conversation's never going to happen. And then you finally get that conversation.
You can just
like,
say you're talking about me. That's fine. That's fine.
we've been trying to just tap dance around landmines this entire interview, just like, "Ooh, don't say it that
don't
way.
say it. Yeah.
Ooh, ooh,
Don't say
let's
it.
try and go around this way." So, but no, I mean, like, so we'll try and get into that. I think, I had sent you a podcast episode, which was our first episode. And I think with your parents, there was some nuance and some details that were not properly relayed, but also on both sides. I mean, like, just like there were things that weren't really laid out in the open in their entirety on your side. On their side, there were some gaps in the story. I mean, you talked to your stepdad and he was like, "Oh man, I didn't know that. That happened? Like, what? When?" And then we've got the curiosity there. So the curiosity was there. And then you were able to have some conversations with your mom after your grandmother passed away, because she was taking care of her grandmother who had dementia for 3 years, and she just recently passed away. And then she was able, her
Sorry.
mom came in, and man, she really did the work. Like, she came in, she was helpful, she was resourceful, she really was doing everything she possibly could to be like an anchor for both of us, not just her, for both of us in a very challenging time, as much as we wanted to be for her, being like, "Hey man, your mom passed away. We're really, really sorry." But they were able to have a conversation about a lot of things to do with both of their lives and their relationship and her childhood, to where seeing her after that conversation, it looked like a 2-ton weight had been lifted off of your shoulders. You can look up in the sky as much as you want. Those tears are gonna come. So it really was so healing for you to just and that's what she kept saying. She's like, we had the conversation that I thought we would never have. And I feel so much closer to my mother now. I feel understood.
Yeah.
And their relationship since then has been able to lend to that. Like, she is really putting in the work. She's very intentional,
us.
and
Both of us.
both of you are. Both of you are, and me too, because I think there was probably a little bit of resentment on my end, seeing like how important that conversation was going to be for you, knowing it hadn't happened and it may never happen. I for sure act in such a way that I'm going to be a little salty. And since then, now, like, we've all been putting in the work to really start going, well, what does it look like to have a more meaningful and intentional relationship, that we could repair this and build it into something new, so that way we could all move forward with just better energy overall, so that way we could have better results in our relationship. So just the fact that they had the conversation at all was so much of it.
So yes, to what you said, that conversation is beyond. It can be beyond healing if both people hold space for each other. Because that was the other thing. I got a lot of perspective about my mom as well in having that conversation. I think kids forget that their parents had a whole ass life before you came along.
Yes.
And we just assume we know all the things, and we don't.
Yeah.
Both ways don't know all the things. So
Yes.
yeah, I think getting to know your parents as an adult can be such a cool thing if given that space.
Yeah, I think so. And I think that that transition can be hard, right? Sometimes, like you talked about transitioning to adulthood, and you becoming a parent can kind of put stress on that um, relationship. I think, a lot of times what people are telling me online too is pretty severe and significant abuse, right? So there's this spectrum of people that are struggling to be connected to their parents. And, on this side, we've got like severe, significant abuse, but there's all this space in between. And to hear a lot of the no contact parents and the coaches and stuff talk about it, the options are like this one, it was really severe abuse, or it was this one, it was pretty fine. That's not how it is, right? Like there's all this space in between. And if we're somewhere over in this area, then like it takes like an important conversation. It takes some vulnerability and accountability, and we can probably repair and create something together. But somewhere over here, we start to lose that space, and that is because parents are the ones that are responsible for setting up the relationship in the first place, right? Like you set up the dynamic with your kids, you build the environment that we talked about, right? And so because of that, there's a lot more onus on you as the parent to be the one to try and rebuild that or to change that. And if I've been in some way, especially if it's bordered on abuse, back in the like overlap of the James Dobson parenting with a lot of spanking, which is physical abuse, and it impacts your brain the same way that other kinds of trauma do. If there was like a significant amount of that or those kinds of behaviors that were normalized, but we would now call abuse, there's going to be a lot more work that's needed over here, right? And that there's people way over here who probably shouldn't ever talk to their parent again, who is still very dangerous and certainly dangerous to their kids, right? And there's people over here that just have had a rough couple of years. And then there's like all this space in between. And this is why there's nuance, right? Like this is why being in a therapy setting, or at least a supportive environment somewhere with other people that can help you navigate that, can help to unpack like, where are we on this? What kind of reasonable expectation can I have? And should I have for my parent or my child? And like, what do we do to move forward with that? Because what I do to move forward with that over here is pretty different than what I would do to try and move forward if I'm over here on that spectrum. And there was a lot more harmful behavior, not just difficult dynamics, right?
100%. Yeah. You're gonna say something?
I mean, yeah, no, I think that it is absolutely a spectrum. Like you said, there are people who it's just like, you probably don't want to talk to that person ever again. But like you said, I say it in my act that I'm getting ready to record the next special for. I don't think anybody's good or bad. I think people do good things, people do bad things. You just don't want to string too many of those bad things together and call it a life, right? So it's just like people could have bad days. People could have some moments that there's some big feelings that could have been navigated better. And but it's just like that narrative, of like what that ends up doing to the kid, how it plays out, and if you're able to do that repair work, which is really important.
Well, and I know we've talked about it before, but I think there's like when we're looking at the authoritarian like generation of so many parents are just like, well, your childhood wasn't as bad as mine, so therefore yours wasn't bad. And it's like, no, 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 we're not comparing. Mine is mine, and that's it. That's all we're looking at right now. And so I think that's a big issue as well.
Yeah, I was actually thinking about that a minute ago. Is sometimes some of the responses that kids will get when they bring or adult children will get when they get to their parents is like, well, we didn't. Everybody did that. We didn't call that abuse, or that wasn't that bad. You don't even know. The problem with that is it makes the parent now like the child. Now you as the adult child is supposed to also care for how they were treated, and be responsible for interrupting all of those dynamics and just be okay with how your parent behaved. And I think that is an avoidance strategy that's not very helpful. I think that we can have empathy for my parent being a human being, parenting in the world and living in the world that they're living in, and still hold them accountable for behavior that was harmful, like you said. I think that it gets used as an excuse a little bit too much. It's not super helpful.
I think in anything, right? Like I think people are very quick to be like, well, I had a shit childhood, so I can do XYZ. And it's like, no, no, no. You don't get to keep using that until you're in the grave as an excuse to get away with doing whatever you want.
Yeah. Well, I think people want to be validated.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think that's what it comes down to, is just like to be able to start comparing these things, you're invalidating the experience of whoever, or like, well, yours wasn't as bad, so it doesn't count. And that's not true, because I mean, but the generations before us went through a lot, and I feel like I have to state it so the record shows. Like, I had a great childhood for the most part. Like, I mean, like mine was more towards that side of the spectrum, like you were talking about, where it's like we have some instances here where there is some big feelings and some mishandlings of some situations. Okay, and for me, it was the unpredictability of it. I never knew when it was going to come. And that's when it happened over time that made me like walk on eggshells, because I'm just like, okay, it's not a lot, it's not often, and it's not extreme for the most part, except for a couple instances, but I just don't know when it's going to happen, But I think a lot of that comes from like, yeah, they had really rough childhoods. And before them, like getting to know like my grandparents and things. And I'm like, oh my God, that's so terrible. Like, I'm so sorry that happened to you, and being able to have that empathy and everything. But but it does become a matter of like, you've got to validate what people have gone through. And like you said, then it becomes like, okay, so am I supposed to parent you now? Like, I mean, it seems like you've got these things.
You also are an adult now, right? Like, you're a child. You were a child then, and that happened to you, and you didn't have control over that, but now you're an adult. And that's not to say that nothing ever impacted you, but you're responsible for figuring out how you're going to respond to that. And that's actually what the adult children are doing, is saying like, whoa, I didn't have any control over this, but I'm responsible for figuring out how to do this and do it differently with my kids. And so I'm going to try and do that. But I think when the parents have a problem with that, that's one of the major barriers to, the dog came in, major barriers to healing and reconnecting, is because they want to use that as an excuse for behavior and really don't want to acknowledge, right, or take any accountability for that.
Yeah.
There was something else I was going to say, but the dog distracted me, and now I don't remember what it was.
Do you want to walk a lap, see if it comes to you?
Right. Right.
It's like somewhere in there.
Well, Sandra, we really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us today. Why don't you let the folks watching and listening know where they can follow you on social media and anything that you would like to promote?
Sure. Well, my website is sandrafrasermaurer.com. Fraser is easier to say than Maurer, Fraser.
It is.
I was like, that is not how you say that.
Yeah, I know.
Gaslighting.
Freaking everybody. On Instagram and TikTok, I'm MN_therapist, like Minnesota therapist. And I have a Substack called American Motherload, which is the title of the book as well when and if it gets
Hooray!
published. So
I have a Substack, so I'm gonna go follow
oh,
you there.
cute.
Yeah, you
Perfect.
are.
Yay.
Sounds good.
Absolutely.
I'll find you.
Yes, yes. Well, thank you to everybody for watching and listening. Sound off in the comments if this was helpful to you at all. What was your experience like under this umbrella of what's going on? Are you on one of these sides? Were you able to come out the other side of it better? What was your experience? Feel free to sound off, like, share, subscribe, do all the things. I'm Miles Weber,
I'm Heather Weber.
and this has been the Two Tired Parents Podcast. We'll see y'all later.